The UKIP MEP, now sitting as an independent, in an excellent position to judge the state of the negotiations. Stephen Woolfe, you're in a fantastic position to comment on the state of the Brexit burach, as we call it in Scotland. I mean, you're an independent member of the European Parliament now, no longer a member of UKIP. You can take an eye over what's happening. Yeah. So, Stephen, what is happening?
Well, I think everyone will agree it's a mess. It's a real disaster in terms of geopolitics, the way that other countries are looking at Britain. It's a macro politics in the way that you're managing the government. But here in the European Parliament, it's the sense of being stunned by other MEPs and other countries about how a nation that they respect very deeply, who they've had a long historical connection with, and has been unable and incapable of projecting a very clear message to the European negotiators.
So why is that? I mean, why have the last 2 years from a British point of view been so desultory and ineffective in communicating what exactly the government wanted?
I think it's because there wasn't any real desire by the establishment in London, be those the civil servants who had to keep the eye over the negotiations and the policy papers, the team that surrounded Theresa May, notwithstanding David Davis or Boris Johnson.
Davis. I mean, think about David, an experienced European negotiator from time past, an intelligent, effective, respected politician. He was the Brexit secretary. Why wasn't David Davis able to impose some order in the chaos?
Because I think behind him, people like Ollie Robbins and those who are in those teams were not on par with the deal.
Ollie Robbins is a civil servant.
Yes.
This is the kind of eminence grise of the negotiations, shadowy figure behind the scenes.
That's right.
What's been the UK civil service objective then? Have they had a civil service objective out with the Conservative government objective?
Well, there are those who said there have, and there are those who've accused the civil service of being in cahoots with a kind of institutional Europeanised intelligentsia. And that is, they've been used to 40 years of dealing with civil servants in the Commission. They can work out the deals amongst themselves, and politicians here have very little hand in how the rules and laws are made. So it suits them, it helps them, it's their own fiefdom in many ways.
Did you think they were trying to reverse Brexit?
I think they were trying to do two things. First of all, delay and deny Brexit and put it in such a position that Britain never actually left on paper. We still remain part of the customs union, single market, rules, regulations, so that in the future another government would have it easy in being able to come back in.
So in other words, they were trying to find some sort of halfway house where it'd be easy to get back into the tent.
That's right.
If that's not mixing my metaphors. So, what about the Prime Minister in all of this? I mean, you know, David Davis might be circumvented by the civil service, but I mean, the Prime Minister is Prime Inter Pares. She should be able to dictate an agenda. Why hasn't Theresa May, who says that she's a newborn Brexiteer, keeping faith with the referendum, keeping faith with the millions of votes for Brexit, why hasn't she been able to impose her will?
Well, what I didn't think she understood is the power of the kind of patriarchal, patrician Conservative parties who are truly behind Remain, those who are backed like the previous Prime Ministers, John Major and his team, to work behind the scenes to first of all oust her team, her close team, and they got rid of her Chief of Staff and her Head of Communications and replaced them with David Lidington and others who are deep Remainers. Then they attacked David Davis, gave them a position where he had to resign, the same with Boris Johnson. And now she's trapped with the civil service, as I've mentioned, who don't want to leave, create this situation where we can come in, and Conservative Remainer politicians who are pushing her every day with Project Fear, concerns about our government, way that we look, so she no longer feels comfortable to be able to oppose it. And the only thing she's got is the belief in public service to maintain Brexit.
Theresa May signed up to the deal that got rejected in a historic vote in the Westminster Parliament by 230 votes. The Parliament of Westminster is, at best on this issue, disputatious and lacks coherence. Haven't they still got the governing hand? I mean, you know, it's not a great negotiating tactic to say, if you don't give us more, then we'll go hand in hand off the cliff.
We have a Remainer Parliament that is supported by Remainers in control of government policy effectively in the Cabinet, with a Remainer sitting there as the head of the House in Mr Bercow, controlling even those who have the right to submit amendments.
In defence of the Speaker, I mean, I remember when John Bercow was the toast of the Eurosceptics because he insisted on them getting their amendments heard, something that previous speakers hadn't done. Now, of course, they don't look upon him like that, but it's not so long ago where the Speaker insisting on minority views was regarded as a good thing.
And I think at that time most people were thinking, okay, we've got a balanced individual here, but certainly over the past few months with a man that still drives around in his so-more wife's car with bollocks for Brexit on it.
I think his wife's entitled to be pro-Europe. I mean, I'll tell you my thoughts on this are, Stephen, that 30 years off and on in the House of Commons, I longed for a speaker who would allow backbenchers and minorities to express their points of view. I saw so many speakers who were prisoners of the government in one share. So I kind of like the idea of a speaker, whoever else might be said about him, is not in the pocket of the government. So, but leave that to one side.
Yeah.
Where do we go now, Stephen? I mean, we are in a position where, on your analysis, I think to be fair, on general analysis, whatever your view in this, the UK has lost the first 2 years of negotiations. So there's a few weeks to go. Can the position be recouped, or is it going to be some unmanageable leap of faith into the unknown?
We're now down to two options. Option one, which I think is going to be the one that probably comes out, is there will be tweaking to the backstop agreement, and I think they'll work to a system where they will have trade between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland through a borderless system. Something that the European Union's had in place with other countries for years, and there's documents here on the back wall over there that shows exactly that. I think that's more likely. The situation that I would prefer, that would have given us, and still prefer, where we have strength over the European Union for the future trade arrangement, is a World Trade Organization deal. I think that will be avoided at all costs by those in Parliament that will find some mechanism to stop it.
The outcome that you think is most likely, which is a kind of a halfway house that satisfies no one, isn't an argument from the Prime Minister's perspective that if she gets to that halfway house, then it leaves open to her successor and to future parliaments. They can either go the whole way, or potentially, which you fear, come back into the House.
Yeah, I would love to believe that our Parliament would be filled with those who would have the sense of duty and responsibility to look at the opportunity that Brexit could give us in terms of our way of trading with other countries. I just don't feel that they have the wit about them to do that, or the desire to be able to push forward Britain in a really energetic and enthusiastic way. And I suspect that they'll just want to drift back into this in some way in the future.
Then Michel Barnier's objective was to get a deal, and he succeeded in getting a deal with the UK government, if not the UK Parliament. But that was based on making sure that nobody could argue that a country exiting the European Union would have a beneficial relationship compared to a country which stayed in the European Union. So hasn't Michel Barnier, let's be fair, hasn't he done his job?
I think he's done his job in a number of ways. The first principle was exactly that. Make sure everyone was frightened of wanting to leave. So that's their first issue. Secondly, he wanted to make sure that Brexit was delayed and denied to the extent that we couldn't compete against the European Union on different rules and different regulations, because they knew that we could have a powerhouse on that. And the third, which is a really important thing when you hear about people here and MEPs talk about the importance of geopolitics, the way that the European Union sent a message out to the world that, look, if we can hit the United Kingdom, the fifth largest economy, really hard in negotiations, then you can expect exactly the same with us in China.
So does that mean that one, not the only, but one of the likely consequences of Brexit is to make the other 27 more coherent and certainly less likely to engage in the same process?
I think what you're seeing now is the real swift project to integrate even more quickly than they anticipated. You can see that on the European army, the way that they've pushed not only through armaments, that the unification of the designs of weaponry, to the creation of the PESCO and the structures in place. That's one. Two, to keep the negotiations strong with Turkey, to keep them open. There's policy papers downstairs that says the same. Thirdly, the common central tax issue, where they're already beginning to take the largest European countries as a common tax for the European Union, but see how they're actually pushing on Ireland to say, we're going to qualified majority now, you can't have a veto. So that will impact Ireland.
So we're in the
Huge numbers of centralisation is being pushed forward right now and very quickly.
so we're in the dying embers of this Parliament, and who knows? Will the Brexit deal be done before these embers
I
are
only hope it
extinguished?
will.
When you leave this place, will there be any aspect of a fond farewell, or will you say, look, job done, next phase of my life?
It's certainly going to be the next phase of my life, and there will be an element of, yes, job done, but surprisingly I will miss some parts of it. There are a lot of really decent people in this place. I mean, one of the first things I did with my grandmother is always make sure you know the security guards, the cleaners, the cooks, people who provide us coffee. I'm going to miss all of them. I'm going to miss quite a lot of the members of the European Parliament. Since being independent, I've had much more engagement with them. I'm not going to miss the negativity that this place has. I'm not going to miss how insular it can be, and I'm not going to miss the fact that they
Try Westminster sometime.
but there is a real, kind of Brussels village feel, and they just don't tend to put their tentacles out to the rest of Europe, and they believe what they say matters more than anything else. I won't miss that, but I do want to send a message to people out there and say that, look, they're just like any other large institution. They believe they're right, they believe their vision is right. It doesn't make all of them indecent people or nasty individuals. It just means that they have a different opinion to us. I just think their opinion is old, it's old-fashioned, it's in the past, not of the future, and we should still continue to engage with them and try and persuade them that there are different ways to engage with the world.
Team Woolfe, thank you so much. Now, for appearing in Alec, you're entitled to the quaich. The drill is whiskey in the quaich,
Yeah.
only Scotch, no Mancunian impersonation, and then passed round your many friends to wish them health.
Well, thank you, Alex. I'm going to really enjoy that and pass around. As long as it doesn't mean I have to kiss you now, that's it. They're great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's really very kind of you.
And whatever you do now, good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.